Dodge this.
One world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice. Tumbling down the rabbit hole? Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of DTRH. It is April 2nd, 2015. Now, tonight I'm going to be breaking down Jade Helm and the martial law scenario with two of my guests tonight. But before I get into that, I just want to let everyone know that is probably not aware of this, unless you've been listening for the past 4 years, that yesterday was the 4-year birthday / anniversary of DTRH. I launched Down the Rabbit Hole on April 1st, 2011. So yesterday, as of yesterday, I have officially been doing radio for 4 years. I've been doing activism in this aspect since 2006 with federaljack.com, my other website. But I've been doing Down the Rabbit Hole, my radio show, for 4 years. I can't believe I've been doing radio for 4 years, by the way. Just amazing. So I thought I'd throw that out there. And I'm super excited that my 4-year anniversary broadcast, I guess you could say today, is going to be getting into the almost like the root of what got me into this stuff. The base level problems that we have, the police state, martial law, the bullying by the powers that shouldn't be. That's really what it is. So anyway, to break down Jade Helm, martial law, and all this garbage with me are two of my best friends in the world, and I literally mean that. Mr. Joe Joseph, my brother from another mother, and then, of course, my sister from another mother, Melissa Melton. What's up, guys?
Can you? That's not me.
I don't want to put it too loud.
Can you hear me? Am
Yes,
I coming through okay?
Fine.
All right.
You're coming through loud and clear, Melissa.
My. 4 years already.
Yes.
You get a cookie.
Yes, you want a biscuit?
It's shaped like George H.W. Bush's face, though. You might not want to eat it.
Oh, that's nice.
That's
Is
like,
it all wrinkly too and like old and moldy?
Yeah.
It's like eating those demon cookies or whatever it was we were talking about.
Demon Cheetos. You can smell it from another room. It's pretty bad. Sorry.
Wow. George W. Bush cookies. What a way to ruin something good.
No, I said H.W. Bush cookies. That's worse.
Oh, that's even no. That's really eating a demon face.
Yeah. Talk about dry.
Oh
They're not even moist.
Ew.
Somebody, next time he, please, to whoever is the skydiver that goes with him at the next helicopter.
Just let go.
Your
Cut
plane.
the cord.
Just unclip. It's like all you gotta do is unclip him. You don't even have to say anything interesting. I mean,
But do it low enough to where he survives just for a little while.
dude,
You know?
he's like 90 years old. I think from 15 feet he ain't gonna survive. You know what I'm saying?
Come on. Then do it at 10.
Ouch.
You know what I mean? Just enough where every bone in his body's broken, but he has to lay there in total freaking agony until his heart stops.
Like you're like 20 feet above the ground. You're parachuting in, and all of a sudden, just click, click.
Oops. How did that
He
happen?
breaks both legs but survives, so he's in agony forever.
Yeah, he probably doesn't even feel him anymore.
I've been reading all this really out there stuff about how the government has underground biotech facilities where they're testing on humans and they can remove your soul and replace it with an alien. Now, obviously, I'm not saying I know about any of that, but if that were the case, that's definitely a candidate right there. Somebody whose soul has been removed and replaced by aliens.
Did he ever have a soul? Is really the question.
Ah, yes, this is.
Is he not maybe perhaps evil incarnate in and of itself? Then, there wasn't a soul ever to begin with. Like
His soul is made of demon Cheetos.
like his son W is not his father. Like his father was fully in charge of things when he was the vice president, whereas when his son, well, his mama is super evil. Well, just look up just look up Bill Hicks on Rush Limbaugh. He mentions Barbara Bush in there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, it's choice. We've played it on air. I can't play it on air tonight, but trust me. Oh my God. Anyway, so Jade Helm, Melissa, you were chatting with me when I was at the gym earlier, and I know this is bugging you out a little bit, I guess.
Well, it's just because I've had like the fifth person recently tell me that Aaron and I need to leave the country today and go into great explanation as to why that's the case. And so I think it's just people are on edge right now because there's a lot of things happening all at once. And it's more so in our faces than just, on CNN or something. So I would say that's, I'm not saying run around screaming like a chicken with your head cut off, far from it. I'm just saying there's an awful lot of stuff going on right now that's not just some nebulous CNN report about whatever, but it's actually in your face. You know what I mean? Well, for example, I live in, outside of Austin quite a ways. And so, yes, there are lots of military bases in Texas and all of this. However, I've lived here for almost a year now, and I've not seen any military movement hardly at all in our skies, maybe one military helicopter every once in a great while or something. Within the last week here, there are days when there's 6, 7 of them just, as if that's a normal thing. And it's just not normal. And I didn't say anything about Jade Helm in conjunction with that because Jade Helm is supposedly going down this summer. I simply said, hey, I think it's a little strange that we're suddenly seeing all this heavy military movement going on right now. And somebody told me there was a drill going on at that time that had to do with civil unrest. It was not Jade Helm. It was a separate deal. And I said, I just want to point this out. We made a video about it, and it got turned into all this stuff, and we got heavily attacked for even talking about it. But I mean, if you live in a place for a year, you don't see any military movement whatsoever, then suddenly there's Chinooks everywhere, black helicopters everywhere, there's, army jeeps all over the street. What are you supposed to? You're supposed to just go, oh, I guess that's normal. I'm not going to say anything about that. We just mentioned it because it's completely out of the norm. I've not seen that in the whole time I've lived here. So, why wouldn't I point that out? I'm not saying it's necessarily in relation to Jade Helm. However, if you look at the stuff for Jade Helm, we were talking about this the other night. Because what does the patch for Jade Helm say? Mastering the human domain or something?
And
Sure.
that's what they're doing. Well, this is
Why can't they just call it like super happy fun time? Why do they have to call it something like mastering?
Because they don't exactly say it that way.
Well, it's all psychological. This is all psychological operations, and the stuff you see going on like right now, the stuff you see going on in Fort Lauderdale, this has been going on for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Okay, when I lived down there, they were doing runs with little birds. For Joe, you know what a little bird is, okay? You can go just look up, ladies and gentlemen, little bird helicopter, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Special Forces uses them. Blackwater uses them. Okay, it's a small. I forget the model of the helicopter, but it's a small chopper, and they usually have small rocket launchers or miniguns mounted on the sides on pods, and they can come in. If you've ever seen Black Hawk Down, in the end, when Delta comes in and the Rangers come in and they come in to get their guys out the next day, and they started doing that night they were protecting them. They kept them alive because the little birds kept doing gun runs up and down the street. They would come in really low and light the whole street up with minigun fire or rocket fire, and then come back out, and then they'd do a U-turn, come in, strafe again, and they'd go back and fuel up and then come back in and do gun runs all night long. Well, they started doing that same technique, the same thing they did to the people of Somalia to get the Rangers out in the Black Hawk Down scenario. They're doing that over downtown Miami, except they're firing blanks.
Yes.
But they were firing.
Well, let me just say this. First of all, they did do the whole posse comitatus thing for a reason at one point in time. That's gone now, of course. It used to be that when I was in the military, you couldn't wear your working uniform and get out of your vehicle. You couldn't even pump gas. The only way you could do it was if you were in your full dress uniform, because just getting out in your working uniform would violate posse comitatus. Couldn't do it. So just the whole mentality has changed.
Do you remember basic training? I remember my first day, not in doc. The first 3 days is you don't even learn anything. You're just getting brutalized. You're getting physically beaten and stuck with needles.
Deprived.
Yeah, and sleep deprived. It's in doc weekend. Brutal. But I mean, the first day of like classroom like teaching where you're not getting the living crap kicked out of you and they start to teach you the things they want to teach you, some of the educational stuff. The first thing they taught us was posse comitatus. First thing that my company commander walks in, and he was a former Marine, right? He was retired, and he left them. He got out of the Marine Corps and then went to the Coast Guard. And he told us, don't try to be heroes if you see the cops stopping somebody. You're not a cop. He goes, if you want to be a cop, you shouldn't have joined the Guard. You shouldn't have joined the military. You should have stayed a civilian, and you should have been a cop. You're in the military. You don't have any right to get involved in civilian stuff. Period. End of story. We weren't allowed, like you said, you weren't even allowed to wear your working uniform off of the base. The only time you could wear a uniform off the base was your dress uniform.
Yeah, you could wear your working uniform if you were going to and from work and you couldn't get out of your car.
Or a parts run or something like that. But if it was official business. But you could, we as members of the Coast Guard, we have to deal with civilians a little bit more. So there were certain situations where we were allowed to go off, but there were certain uniforms that we had to, if we left the base, there was only certain uniforms we could wear. You weren't allowed. It was just, and you would get in deep trouble. I mean, this isn't like now. I talk to guys that are in, and they're like, "What's posse comitatus?" I'm like, "You were never taught that?" No,
it's repealed.
Oh, of course,
it's gone.
Well, who cares about that? I mean,
right.
But now you see the result of that. You see military running around in the street training. And by the way, can I just? I'll shoot the whole argument that they're training for someone else's country. I'll shoot it down in 3 seconds. Would they, in another country, be working with the police during an invasion, like
or DHS?
Right? Do you think if, like, let's say the Rangers, say like we invaded Iraq, okay, 2003. Do you think the Iraqi police, as they saw the American military coming in, were waving, "Yay, yay! This is the stuff we've been training for. All those drills that we did in the streets. Yay! Now we get to play with the army guys." No. That's not what happens. Usually, they kill the police and the military of the country that they're invading. So since they're playing with the cops hand in hand, that should tell you something.
Yeah, well, and I lived on a military base for 2 years. I lived on Camp Pendleton for 2 years. There are places on military bases that look exactly like your local neighborhood. They don't have to do this, right in the middle of Fort Lauderdale in front of a bunch of civilians. They could do it to mirror, if they really just wanted to do it for a drill, to mirror what it's like to be in a neighborhood, they can do it on the base. They don't have to take that and stick it in the face of civilians. So obviously it's like you're saying, there's an obvious reason for the location of choice.
Well, they're doing it in mass population centers, areas where there's a lot of people, these bigger cities, and they're doing it because it's the frogs in the pot, right? If down the road they try to pull something off, or they do take over, right? They can't just do it like one day everything's hunky-dory, the next day tanks on the street, because you'd literally have people uprising. You'd get insurgency and stuff like that. They know this. Let's understand something. They've been studying counterinsurgency since the 60s, since Kennedy was in fact, Kennedy's presidency was the first group that actually got into counterinsurgency. So for like 50 years, they've been studying this. They're quite good at figuring out how the local population of any country, will react. So they do things slowly. It's psychological. They're normalizing you seeing troops on the streets. You know how many people I've heard, like fellow vets, and they're like, "God bless the troops," and I'm like, "Are you dumb?" I got into it. I almost I had to stop myself because I was about to get into it, and I had to stop myself last night because I was too tired to get into this comment battle.
It's almost a pointless argument to get into.
Well, you're arguing on the internet, Enough said, because the internet. But this guy was literally, he was like, somebody had reposted the article a couple years ago, by the way, for the newer listeners. Joe and I wrote an article, and I'll get the link and I'll post it in the chat room. It's called "Welcome to Karnas Village," and it's like Melissa said, this is one of these older bases. This has been around for a few years. It's set up like a mock American town. When you see the pictures, they're like, "Oh, this is for training overseas." Bullshit. Okay, that's how I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. You don't see bus? Last time I checked, I didn't see Main Street USA and bus stops and buildings that look like store. Yeah, in the middle of the creek. But hey, I guess I'm wrong. They have bus stops in Iraq, Popeye. Yeah, they look exactly like the ones here in America, right? Sure. And I'm sure there's a town hall and a hospital and a church. Oh, that's a mosque. Even though it doesn't look like a mosque, and it certainly looks like a church with a steeple. But hey, I could be wrong. Last time I checked, mosques had minarets, not steeples. Steeples seem to be a strictly Christian thing.
Come on, mundane details. Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Well,
just remember that's key. If you're going to be successful in media, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
A la Brian Williams. So I put that article up on Facebook, and somebody shared it, one of the listeners, and one of, I guess, his friends, viewers, listeners, whatever, right? Because the guy's done, I guess he's been on regular terrestrial radio before talking about this stuff, so kudos to him, by the way. But somebody on his friends list, whatever, knows him on Facebook, commented, "Well, what do you expect? How do you expect our guys to train if the country's going to get invaded? Don't you want them to be able to defend you properly?" And I just, like, really? So, like, the past, 230 some odd years of the country's existence, they haven't been prepped for an invasion? We've just been lucky? Like, really? Really? I just wanted to look at the guy and be like, that's the dumbest thing I think I've ever heard someone say in response to seeing
that's like the Secret Service saying they have to build an $8 million White House replica so they can properly protect the actual White House.
Wow.
I don't know if you heard that. That was a couple weeks ago. They're asking Congress for $8 million because they can't protect the White House properly unless they have a whole entire fake White House built so they can protect.
Well, let me just say this. This is my crux of it. And by the way, after the break, Chris Geo wants to join the soiree here, the 4th anniversary soiree of love, peace, and harmony. That is Popeye. So,
Jesus.
Needless to say, let's just, again, like I said last night, let's just put our critical thinking caps on for a second, shall we? The excuse that they give you is that special forces need to be able to blend in with population so that they can go over and operate in Syria and Iran against ISIS, et cetera, et cetera. If that were the case, well, first of all, I guess they're doing it in a good area, the Southwest, because that's where a lot of the brown people are. So I guess, if you want to go that route, well, you're blending in with brown people, so maybe, kind of, sort of.
Because Americans are really good at blending in overseas.
Yeah, right, because Alejandro Sanchez is, very similar to
How is a Black Hawk helicopter landing on the roof of any building supposed to blend in?
It's not.
I mean, if anyone's ever
Well, it happens
been,
all the time here in Texas.
has anyone ever heard a Black Hawk fly overhead? They're rather loud.
Well, let's focus then on what they're actually training for. Like you just said, they're training with local police and also Department of Homeland Security. They're training to do extractions. They're training to do door-to-door searches. They're training to do riot control, all of that kind of stuff. Now, question, is that really tactical training as far as a warfare environment overseas? I don't think so. So then you have to ask yourself, well, what's been all the chatter then about, terrorists? Well, the chatter here in the United States are terrorists are Christians, they're right-wing extremists, they're Ron Paul supporters, they're preppers. If you own a garden, if you grow a garden, you're a terrorist. There's a whole host of things that are just totally asinine.
Hey, since they like to throw labels around, because they like to say prepper, constitutionalist, truther, this, that.
You know how it is, right?
Can we come up with some sort of label for them? How about child raping scumbags?
I like butt pirate myself, but that's just me.
How about ultimate evil?
Child raping butt pirate?
How about child raping evil scumbags that need to be swinging from a rope on the stairs of the Capitol with a sign around their neck that says traitor?
But then they get pulled down just before they die, long enough for them to be put on a table and
long enough for them to be resuscitated and then put back up.
Lit on fire, please.
What are you trying to do them like William Wallace? Jesus.
They release the cord 10 feet from the ground.
Hey, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Let me just say.
Let's see if they'll scream freedom.
Yeah, freedom. Yeah, right.
I doubt it.
Freedom.
I live in Texas, and according to Jade Helm, I'm in a hostile state. So.
Well, you are, and you're hostile people. I mean, look at you and Aaron.
Well, look.
I mean, I'd be scared.
Yes, they want to train the military. They want to train the military and the cops. They're doing two things. A, they're training the military and the cops to like muscle memory, like physically training. But this is psychological on so many levels. It's psychological for the people. It's psychological for the police. It's psychological for the military. First of all, any of these cops that are engaging in this, you guys are violating so many different things on. I mean, like the Constitution.
No, they're not.
Morals.
No.
Being a human being. Actually having some common sense. I don't know. I could go on and on and on. I think you get the point.
Totally safe.
And really, if you're a cop and I know the mentality of the cops that got involved in this. I guarantee they're like, yeah, let's play with the military because I probably couldn't have been in the military because I was rejected. So I'm going to live out my boyhood fantasies. I go home and not only do I pull over criminals, but I play Call of Duty and now I get to do it in the real world.
Yeah. It's like all the band geeks are getting revenge. You know what I mean? That's basically what it is. They all became cops and now it's revenge time.
I don't understand how people can become cops anymore in this day and age.
Well,
how can you tell yourself you're doing something good?
Why did I become a civil servant? Let me tell you why.
You thought you were helping people?
Well, no, not really, because I could affect change within my sphere of influence, and I've done so to an extent. But let me tell you something: the system's so damn corrupt.
People don't do that to be people.
Okay, but here's the thing:
anymore, people become cops because they're power hungry. Like most of the people that are attracted to that position now, and I know there's people going to get pissed at me for saying this, but whatever. I have that knack, so be it.
Yeah, but it doesn't even matter if you say. Let me say it. Can I say it?
People that are attracted.
Is that where you get blamed anyway?
Well, you go. Well, yeah, of course, because whatever you say, I get blamed for it anyway. But people that like. Are going to the position of police officer now are like they have small penises, they have low IQs, and they're power hungry
on purpose. Though,
but that's
they specifically choose people with low IQs. Right. But yes,
I'm not being a facetious prick when I say that.
That's totally true.
Yes,
that's totally true. There have been lawsuits filed in federal court over the fact that they will not hire people with a certain IQ. It's got to be lower.
You know, I always think of that. I know because I'm a Trekkie, so here comes a geek out of me. But in one of the Star Trek films, it was Data, and he goes, "He'll make an excellent drone." I'm just like, oh, that's a
to be fair,
right there.
I'm sitting over here with books talking about futuristic technology that were written several years back, where they literally discuss how they're going to put all kinds of frequency waves. They're going to send that through specifically to police departments to keep people at a certain agitated frequency, to keep people angry, to keep people on edge.
Listen to how the cops talk.
This is the kind of stuff. I'm serious. Well, when you look at the news, do you ever say, how many stories anymore do we see of like cop saves puppy, helps whole neighborhood, is awesome? You hardly ever see
Once
it.
a year.
And you used to see them a lot more often because they tried to balance it out to make it look better. You know what I mean? But you don't even see that anymore. Cops have killed some 300 people so far this year. Just this year, in the first 3 months.
I have a strange hankering for a second to get iced tea and body count.
Oh God! Right from the 80s.
Yeah,
in the night, or no, was it the 90s?
Early 90s.
Oh my God, that song! Want to be a rebel? Ugh. Well,
they're averaging 100 people a month.
Well, cops have killed more people than Ebola, but cops have actually killed more people than the scary measles. Right, that caused all these new laws.
That's because the measles didn't kill anybody.
Okay, so if the scary, I guess Ebola morphed into the measles, which then
I think so.
It freaked everybody out, and they passed all these laws against the measles and about mandatory vaccines now and exemptions in many of these states. They're just passing laws hand over fist. What about all of the people that have been killed by police? Should we have laws that cops can't kill people willy-nilly anymore? Oh no, that's just silly. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. And holding police accountable. Stop it, you.
So what?
Just stop.
We're about to hit the break.
Oh.
Yes, I hate to rain on the parade, but you know what? Coming up, Chris Geo.
Is that you peeing on my leg? God, Joe.
Joe's good at that. Joe's always good at that.
I can't contain myself.
That's Joe's forte. Anyway, the break is sneaking up. We have to behave ourselves for 3 short minutes. We'll be back. Stay tuned. More on Jade Helm martial law. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. So, joining us now, owner of Truth Frequency Radio,
the man, the myth, the legend,
Mr. Chris Geo.
Oh my God.
How are you guys doing?
That was perfect, the way all of us just kind of pieced together the intro.
Totally scripted.
Yes, it was all scripted.
Excellent. You know, Jade Helm, I'm glad you guys are talking about that because I had Simon Treselian on last week, and he's former Special Forces, former Black Ops.
Yeah.
And he brought up a very, very interesting point. Now, I went into the broadcast with the same impression that this seems like a very high-level training drill for martial law. However, he brought up a very interesting point, which was, why would you use these very highly trained and high-level military outfits for martial law? You would never do that. Like, these people are like the cream of the cream, creme de la creme. You would never use them for martial law.
No. As a matter of fact, Chris, let me preface that a little bit. When I was operating overseas in the Persian Gulf, you know, if we came under heavy fire or something like that, we would turn away. We'd call in the SEALs. And it's funny. One time we were chasing an oiler that was trying to sell its. What happened was they would skirt the oil for food program. Saddam would sell oil, and then these freighters, whatever that could hold, whatever kind of ship could hold oil, they'd go to Iranian territorial waters. They'd pay a toll to the Iranian Navy, and then they would go through the Iranian territorial waters until there's a 7-mile stretch of international waters between Iran and the United Arab Emirates, and that's where we would have to catch them. And so we're chasing this one, and all of a sudden, I had a new crew. It was like me, my partner Robin, and then everybody else was new. And all of a sudden, the guy goes, "Damn, can't believe it, man. There's like bugs out here and stuff." I was like, "Yeah, those aren't bugs. Those are bullets. You might want to get down." It's not good. Well, anyway, we came under such heavy fire, we had to turn back because, you know, our rib boat it can't handle that. So we had to head back. We call in the SEALs. I'm telling you, dude, you saw the helicopter go over. It was and then they dropped down. Literally less than a minute. They didn't fire a shot. And you hear, all clear. Huh? And then you go on board the ship, and everybody is zip tied. Everybody. Just zip tied. Doing that stuff. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, damn. So you're right. But let me bring this up because I think I brought this up in the first segment. I don't think it's martial law. I think you're right, Chris. But these surgical extractions that they're practicing and blending in with the American public, working in conjunction with local police and the Department of Homeland Security, lead me to believe that they could possibly want to maybe extract problem children, if you will, from the populace that could be being a bit naughty, like, you know.
Well, but by definition, it is martial law. It's not. Well, but it's not martial law.
It's a soft martial law.
No. But it's not soft martial law. It's not what you. The problem is everybody, because, and remember, we had this conversation before we went on air. They learn from us, right?
Right.
And
sure.
they learn from how people react and everything. Well, everybody, martial law, FEMA camps, all that has become a meme. Even if we didn't want it to, it has become a meme.
Right.
Okay. So you say martial law, people think.
There's a predefined.
Right. Exactly.
Image.
When I say we're living in martial law, that's one. We already live underneath it. If you don't realize it, we live in the police state. Everybody's worried about the police state coming. It's here. Open your eyes. You can see it all around you. That's one. To understand what they're doing, look at what we did in Iraq. Iraq was a testing ground for how to fight warfare in an urban environment. Remember, all of that was new. This all came about the PNAC document, right? Rebuilding America's defenses, turning America into the Roman Empire 2.0, which is what they've done now, right? 13 years on after it's 14 years now. 14 years on after 9/11. Look at the way this country is completely drastically changed. I mean, they've got people convinced that our own morals are garbage and we should get rid of them. It only took 14 years to do it. So to see what they're going to do in a major city, just look at what they did in Iraq. Look what they did in Baghdad, in downtown Baghdad. What they're training for, to me, yes, Chris is correct. And so are you, Joe, and so was your guest, Chris. He was on point. An initial martial law scenario, they're not going to send in the Rangers or Spec Ops. They'll send in the regular ground pounders. That's what the regular Marine Corps is for. Okay?
Or even local police. Because they're militarized now.
Right. Well, right. But that's what, if they were going to send in regular ground pounders, they'll send in Marine Corps infantry units first. And then maybe some Army infantry units. And then if you had issues, then they would bring in the Rangers, and perhaps the only time they bring in Delta is when that really hits the fan. Or they need a high level target taken out.
Right.
That's only Delta works at the behest of the president. So they're usually they send in the SEALs or something like that. Okay. But what they're doing is they're training special ops for doing the same type of snatch and grab missions that they did in Iraq, but here in America.
Yeah.
So it's more of it's not really physical, because these guys do this type of training. That's why you saw how efficient they were. Okay, they've already done this. This is mental training for them. For down the road, if they ever need to employ them to do snatch and grabs here in the States, like Joe said, picking up the unwanted children. You're the problem child. You've got to go. Right? Well, it's easy to do. That's what special forces are for, and that's what they did a lot in Iraq.
And they don't even have to. The thing is, Chris, they're trained to where they can go in. They don't have to fire around, man. They're that good. They're that good and that quick and that quiet to where you can go in, get him out, and no one knows that anything even happened, except for the fact that you hear maybe a helicopter flying overhead or something like that.
You guys are raising some awesome points. I think we're thinking a little bit off point, though, because I think that when they do implement martial law, maybe in the snatch and grab situations they would use American trained troops. But what I see martial law as, true martial law, where you have a military on the corner, it's going to be UN peacekeeping troops, not United States troops. You've got to bring troops from a different area into the situation. Otherwise, you're going to have people's families, people's brothers, people's sisters, your high school, the people you grew up with, and it's going to be that much more harder for them. That much more difficult for them to carry out their operation.
Let me bring this up too, because in a martial law scenario, you're not going to have everybody at every street corner. That to me seems to be a little bit of a misconception. Again, like maybe perhaps this is the way we envision it, but you don't have to do that. See, that's one of the things is that it doesn't really take. people are like, well, there's no way that they could possibly pull this off. Well, they could, because all you need to do for martial law, first of all, you're not worried about the people in rural America. They're just onesie twosies. They're spread out. You don't have to worry about them too much.
The Boston bombing.
But what you do is you lock down the city. You lay siege to it. It's siege tactics.
The Boston bombing. Dude,
yeah.
The Boston bombing. They allowed the military to run around in the streets, okay, aiming automatic weapons at people's windows.
Oh, yeah. And forcing themselves in, right.
Let me tell you something. Anybody involved in that should be disgusted in themselves, because you do not aim a damn firearm at something you do not intend to destroy, you bully scumbags.
Yeah, but think about that. Now, if you're talking large scale, like countrywide martial law, the only thing you got to do is lay siege to the freaking cities. You just lock them down. You don't need to put anybody on the street corners, Popeye, because let me tell you something.
Just go watch the movie The Siege to understand how exactly that movie is actually a pretty
because
good
within a week, people are killing each other over food. And then after all the fighting's done and everybody's fighting each other and everybody's killed each other, the survivors are going to be very, very good boys and girls that are going to do exactly what they're told. And that's all you're going to have left. You know, that's and you're going to have pocket resistance. That's everybody in rural America, but the cities will be done. And that's 80% of the population.
Who hasn't seen them shut down a large city? I mean, in Austin, all they have to do is station police cars at the off-ramps to all the major highways. They can shut the whole thing down in minutes.
Yep.
Maybe 2-3 minutes, and you're done. You can't go anywhere. That place is locked tight.
But again, you know, Chris, this is what gets me, is that if you're training for Syria and Iran, then why are you trying to blend in with the American public? You know, that doesn't make any sense, especially since you've got full-scale towns like Carnus Village and the small-scale $96 million city that they built up in Radford, Virginia. Why not just train there?
Because they need to blur the lines, Joe, just like they do with everything else. That's how they've destroyed this country. The only way to get this, you can't attack this country if they knew. You can't attack the country from the outside. They tried. Didn't work. Okay? Because everybody, even if everybody's different or pissed off at each other, eventually would realize, well, we have a common enemy, us versus them.
Right.
The enemy my enemy is my friend.
I agree with Chris's guest, though, that this training is not for martial law. It's not. No.
We live in a pretty hard police state right now. If people want to realize it or not, it's up to them. I mean, here's a situation that just happened to me the other day. I was fishing in my backyard.
Oh, God.
And I had a game warden come up to me demanding my fishing license and telling me that the lake is closed and that it's not fishing season right now. And I'm like, okay, this is my backyard, first of all, so you need to get out. Second of all, this is a lake, okay? Nobody owns the lake. And he said, well, the state owns it. I said, well, who's the state? The state is the state. I said, no, the state is the people. It's a government of the people, by the people. Therefore, I own the lake, and I say that it's open. We had it out a little bit. He wanted to give me a ticket for all kinds of stuff, but I wound up talking my way out of it just by giving him the old Jedi mind trip. A ticket for fishing without a license and for fishing while the lake is closed. It gets even better. So he the first thing he wanted to do was search my stuff. So I start doing some research. This is all after the fact. I start doing some research after the fact. I find out that the way the laws are written here in Washington, anyways, is that they can search your tackle box, they can search your car, they can even search your house without a warrant if they suspect that you have illegal game in anywhere, even your own home. They can. So these game wardens have more authority than anybody else out there. This is a police state. I'm sorry, but when you can have warrantless searches just completely just laid out in law. I mean, they do it in other places. They have stop and frisk, for instance. That's not a law. That's a quote unquote policy in New York. They don't have the balls to put that down in law. But here, for some reason, the game wardens have the ability to overstep the Constitution like that.
Can you stop and frisk him?
I wouldn't want to.
Think about how, on top of that, we also live in such a police state that they're using pre-crime algorithms against the entire population. This thing just blows my mind, and that's why I bring it up anytime we start talking about this, because now they're assigning threat color-coded threat scores to the entire population. Anytime you come in contact with a law enforcement, you call 911. It doesn't matter if it's for you're trying to get help or whatever. They will look you up in a database, you and every person in your home or every person in your car, every person in your party, wherever you are, and they will assign a threat score to you. They use an algorithm that is based on your online activity. It's based on your social media posts. So now anytime that we get stopped, and we've gotten stopped twice since we found out they have this, they will act like they think we're going to blow up the whole town. They start screaming and freaking out. If it's Tuesday, middle of the afternoon, small town, like, put your hands where I can see them. Because it's freaking out.
Because it's compartmentalization. Again, see, this is why I say it's all like this multi-tiered level of game of chess. Because the people at the very, very top, they're the ones that have they understand everything. They're the ones that have studied for years the way humans work. They understand the way our brains work as humans. Okay, they understand how we operate. So then they in turn have devised a very grand scheme that not only manipulates us via our fear and our emotions and little things like this. Okay, but and remember, Jade Helm and these exercises that you see are two different things. And that's why I said breaking down Jade Helm and martial law in the title of the show, because what you see, we already live under martial law. To actually understand what the definition of martial law is, you have to like listen to people like Nathan, okay? Nathan Frazier right on Truth Frequency, his show where he gets into the law society and things. That's what I'm talking about when I say martial law. I don't mean the meme of, troops. And that's the more hardcore version of it.
That doesn't do them any good, though, because it shuts down the whole machine. And the point is to keep the machine running and to keep people in a perpetual state of worrying about how to pay their bills so they continue to run that machine.
And you have to, like, they need the slaves to be slaves.
Hey, by the way,
if they it's like when people are like, oh my God, they're going to turn the internet completely off. No, they're not, because if they did, their banks would shut down.
I just did some research, just so you guys know, and I found another controversy in your area regarding hunting, Chris. And I have a short video clip on that I just want to play.
No, it's duck hunting season. That, sir, is an investigated fabrication. It's wabbit season.
Exactly.
Duck season. Wabbit season. Duck season.
Wabbit season.
Duck season. Wabbit season. Wabbit season. Duck season. Wabbit season. I say it's duck season, and I say fire.
That's pretty much how the conversation went. It was so ridiculous.
I can only imagine.
And now I live out in the country, so I don't feel the brunt of the police force or the police state because I'm not in the city. And I just don't get messed with anymore. I don't know what it is, if it's the energy that I'm radiating or what, but any police encounter I have is short, non-intrusive, and it usually ends with, "I'm sorry to bother you, sir." Jedi mind tricks, again, from listening to Live Free FM. And I think it's a couple of different things. Number one, knowing what the laws say, knowing what the Constitution says, being able to keep your cool. But ultimately, those two right there will start to radiate an energy from you that the police, in my experience anyways, just veer away from, because they go, okay, we're dealing with something different here. It's those people who overreact. It's the people who get crazy. It's the people who go off that usually something happens to them. I watch a lot of these videos where the police are shooting people or tasing people. And as much as I don't agree with them, there are some situations that I try to put myself in the opposite perspective and see from the officer's eyes and go, okay, if that was me, I would fire too if a guy's coming at me with a screwdriver.
You got to think tactically, man.
Exactly. And then everything happens in a split second too.
Sure.
And so mistakes can be made in that split second. In hindsight, you can go back and look at the video for hours afterwards and go, oh, well, I could have done this. He could have done that, et cetera, et cetera. But it has gone way overboard. I do agree with you.
There's a thing called escalation of force, okay? And back in the day, cops were taught hand-to-hand combat. Now cops are taught pull your gun and shoot.
Right.
Okay? There's no in between.
No diffusing the situation. It only escalates it.
No, they come up and they're like, in the case where you bring up the screwdriver, that's a good point. The guy, the mentally ill guy, right? They could have tased that guy. They could have had their tasers out when they came up to the door. They already knew what they were dealing with.
You could have just disarmed him.
They escalated it by yelling. Yeah, dude, first of all, You shouldn't be a police officer or be carrying a gun, okay,
No.
in any way, shape, or form, and dealing with the general public if you don't know how to
If you don't know how
disarm
to
somebody.
disarm somebody with a screwdriver, come on.
I had somebody come at me with a butcher knife. They got disarmed. I didn't have to kill them. Person's still very
That's
much
right,
alive
chopped his
today.
arm off. I know, that was pretty bad.
But I mean, we live in it's such a police state now that there are stories coming out all the time of cops just going ballistic over things that normal people don't freak out about for no like. There was a story just the other day about how a cop pulled a gun on someone for cutting in line at a Redbox kiosk. If you pulled a gun on someone at a Redbox kiosk, Popeye, they would put that on every mainstream news channel and use it as an excuse to further take away the Second Amendment. Okay,
Yeah.
that guy does it, and it's like, well, he's a police officer, so what?
They
He
shot
can
at
act
you
like a child. You shouldn't have a gun if you're going to pull a gun out at a Redbox kiosk for someone.
Well, to be
butting in
fair,
line.
though, the Interview is a very hot movie, and you got to make sure that whoever's standing in the line gets the copy.
Yeah. Hey, but I'll give you another story about what happened over in the Persian Gulf with me, because we actually got in trouble for this. But we had to board and inspect a Korean Ro-Ro that was bringing rice into Iraq. And you got to
Is this one of those stories? If it's off bay, it's not gay.
No.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, there was a lot of tension. There was a lot of tension because they didn't want to they didn't want to be inspected and all that kind of stuff. Well, on their mess decks, they had a karaoke machine. So what do I do? I'm like, let's fire it up, man. Let's do some karaoke. So next thing you know, man, the whole crew, man, we're all doing karaoke together.
And it was called an act of war.
And no, I mean, it totally diffused the situation.
Joe's singing was considered an act of war, but somebody came in at the last minute and they diffused the situation.
Think about this, that guy that was mentally ill, right? Obviously, whether he was autistic, he was mentally ill, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Why not break out into a song, man? Try that. Try being human.
Why not just be like, hey, man, calm down, relax, chill.
Yeah, ease up, dude.
How you been? How's your day? How about trying but they don't do that. There's no more. See, it used to be officers' discretion. They used to teach them, use your common friggin' sense. They don't teach them that anymore because, again, it's all part of this chess game. They need them to be reactionary, so they get them vibed up. Hey, man, I can explain it all in one sentence. Whatever you have to do to come home safe. That's the mentality that they've got police officers in. And that, I'm sorry, but that's a dangerous mentality. And there are cops, the good police out there, whatever. I saw a guy that used to be a cop, retired, opened up a private security company, whatever.
There's no such thing as good cops.
Well, no,
I'm sorry, there's not. I keep hearing that fallacy.
You can't say that because
okay. Has he ever extorted somebody with a gun? Aggravated extortion. Yes, he has.
No,
every time you write a ticket, every time you write a ticket, it's aggravated extortion.
You can't say that because not every cop has written a ticket. I used to think the same way too until I met people that. No, unfortunately, there are only if you get 10 cops in a room. It used to be maybe 2 out of the 10 were bad seeds and the rest were actually good. Unfortunately, it's the opposite way now. Now there's only about 2 good ones left in the room, and the other 8 are all scumbags, and simply weeding out those 2, and eventually it will be, as Chris said. Yeah, eventually it will totally be. No, there are still a few good ones left. I don't want to say there aren't because I know of some that are still, but they're leaving. Most of my friends that were cops have quit.
Yeah, they can't take it anymore.
No, one of my friends. His father was a sheriff for 35 years. He was a sheriff's officer in the same department, like his dream job. Right, he was all happy in it. He quit. He's like, I can't do this anymore. He's like, they're out of touch with reality. There's no common sense anymore.
Did you guys see the DOJ report that came out on Sanford? Or not Sanford, Ferguson. One of the things that we found out, and this goes to Chris's point, and it was pretty startling because I knew that it was high, but I didn't know it was this high. The percentage of how much the municipal budgets in that area rely on tickets and fines, because that's what these people are now. They're taxation by citation. It's all big time that, and they don't see any harm in it. To them, they're just upholding the law and maintaining social order. Blah.
But they know that's bullshit. They know that.
Ferguson's municipal budget, 33% is fines. Now there's like 2 counties over. I can't remember the name of the county. 66% of their municipal budget comes from fines and tickets.
But see, that's piss poor. The city manager should be fired because that's his job. The city manager is the one that oversees everything in the city. He should be fired because obviously something's wrong. At what point it had to have shifted? That wasn't always the way it was. Okay, so at what point did it shift to where most of your budget came from fines? Where'd all that other money go? Was it pocketed? Maybe people should look into that, okay? See, that's the problem. Nobody cares about that, and they don't realize that the police aren't there to solve crimes anymore. As Chris said, unfortunately, most of them are revenue generators, and that's why most people think at this point that there are no good cops left. And I agree that if they're out just writing tickets and generating revenue, then no, you're not really being a good officer of protecting the peace officer.
Let's
You're
take
just
the
being a
back.
revenue generator at that point.
Let's take the badge out of the way for a second, okay? If I was going around and I was demanding money from people with a gun on my hip, whether I pulled it out or not, would I be a good person?
No, it's just it doesn't. No, either way, it doesn't matter.
Okay,
if you're wearing
all
a
right.
costume or not.
So any cop is not a good person because they have to go through regular police training, and then they start out as a patrol officer and all of this. So at one point in time, they went around with a gun and were demanding money.
Yeah, but
and if they didn't get the money, then they would take
it wasn't
people to
always.
jail.
It wasn't. You can't say that because Chris, it wasn't always about. I can remember a time when there were good cops when I was a kid growing up. Like when I was a kid, I got caught lighting garbage cans in the park behind my house on fire. And one of the detectives called the cops, and the detective came over. He knew me. He knew my mother, knew my father was on the fire department. He didn't arrest me. He was like, I'm not going to arrest you and take you
But
to
in
jail.
order to become a detective, you have to be a patrolman first.
Yeah, but back then, it wasn't the same way. They didn't we're talking that within the past 30 years alone, there's been a huge shift in the way things have been done. And that's because it's part of this overall agenda. Policing did not start out the way it has become. I know a lot of retired cops that are disgusted with the way it is now. Right? I had a chance to be a state trooper in New Jersey. You know why I didn't take it? Because I knew that I would be exactly what you described most cops as, a revenue generator. And I was like, I can't do that. I don't want to just sit in my state police car issuing tickets all day. I want to like solve murders and things like that. You know what I mean? I don't want to just sit around. Like, to me, that's why I would want to wear that badge.
Bad boys. What you gonna do when they're 3'2" bad boys?
No, 4'2", smart ass. But yeah, see, so I agree. Unfortunately, now cops, most cops are revenue generators. But there's
Kevin
been
Baker and Popeye is Miami Vice.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, but which one of us? Which
Please
one
no.
of us wears the blue suit, and which one of us wears the white suit?
Oh well, Kev is the Vice man, of course.
Oh, he does have that Don Johnson, like, can't really grow a beard. It never gets past the scruffy phase. In the phase where you could put a little bit of milk and let the cat lick it off. Anyway.
What the hell just happened?
Well done derailing us, Chris, right as we go to break, by the way. Well done. 45 seconds to break, and you take the helm.
Pretty good.
And ride it right off of the bridge. Chris is like, Chris, don't take the left track. The bridge is out. And he's like, cool.
I blame it on Melissa because every time I get around her energy, I turn into a freaking clown.
Oh, thanks. Way to blame it on me.
When everything else fails, just blame Melissa, Mel. There's a new meme, ladies and gentlemen.
That's awesome.
There's your wedding gift, Mel. All right, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be back in 3 short minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Popeye, from federaljack.com and popeyeradio.com. If you want to go check out all my archives, special broadcasts, podcasts, guest appearances, anything I've ever done audio-wise is up there for free. Go rip it while the internet is still available. When I say that, I mean the internet.
Are you fear-mongering again?
No,
They're coming
well,
to take it away. Ha ha. Hoo, hoo, hoo.
after what I saw, did you see the executive order Obama signed yesterday
Boo.
about hacking
Boo.
and hackers?
Boo.
Yeah, well, boo nothing. Let me tell you something. When my friends behind the scenes, you guys know them, I've had them on, when they're all kind of freaked out about things, then that's when I start to really pay attention.
Are you saying it's like another blanket statement, executive order, very vague in what it says? So
basically, they can seize
Absolutely.
the assets. You can seize they can seize the assets of anybody that they say is quote unquote hacking,
And what's the criteria for that? Oh,
and
isn't any. It's just whatever they feel.
Right. Well, they say they have to be working for a quote unquote foreign government, but how hard is it for them to be like, oh, you're working for the Iranians or you're working for North Korea? Or, I mean, how hard is it for them to lie, right? About anything?
I mean, we do talk to Kev Baker.
Well, hey, you're working with the Scottish. They're a foreign government. Psh, there you go.
Foreign government.
There you go. See? I mean, how easy is that? I mean, how loosely interpreted could things be, right? I mean, hey, it's an executive order, and I'm doing things because I'm the president, and I can do what I want. I have friends that are like, he's the best president ever, and I look at them, and I'm like, do you even know what he does? And then I explain stuff, and then they'll try to justify it to me. Well, he has to. And I'm like, you really don't have any ground to stand on. And they're like, well, your opinion. I'm like, no. I don't come on air and give you my opinion on things. Let's get something straight. I'll tell you if it's my opinion. If it's my opinion. When I give you a fact, it's he's still the best president. Ugh. It just makes my head hurt. I don't understand how people could be
what is the standard of measurement for a statement like that?
Ooh, that's a good question.
You want to know? I'll tell you what. Honestly, it's a race thing because one of my friends that says it, and I've called him on it, and he agrees. He gives Obama a pass on everything and anything he does because he's a black guy, and my friend's a black guy, and he's happy that he's the first black president. Except the one thing that pissed him off is he's a Christian, and he got mad about that whole thing when he said Christians, killed people during the Crusades, and so don't be so mad at Muslims for killing people, whatever the hell it was. He said a couple months back that made all the Christians get all pissed off at him. Well, my friend's a hardcore Christian, and he got mad at that. It's the only thing that he ever got mad at him for. I was like, wow, you're pissed at him? Well, he shouldn't have said that. I'm a little angry at him for saying that. But I still think he's the best president. I'm just smacking myself in the head. I'm like, if I could put my face fist, you know what I'm saying? Like, because face palm just doesn't cut it. So I'm trying to put my fist through my head. Dude, seriously. I just want to put my fist through the back of my skull because it's too painful to listen to anymore. It makes my brain hurt. And I try to explain things. I sent him the Obama deception. And after he watched it, he's like, well, that's that guy's opinion. I'm like, I don't I'm not a big fan of AJ, okay? But, that movie is factual, okay? I hate to break the news to you, but the stuff that he points out, 8 years on, I mean, whether or not you like the dude who made the film is irrelevant. The information in that film, unfortunately, I wish it were all garbage and that it was sunshine and rainbows outside and there were unicorns flying around farting rainbows, okay? Not happening. All right, it's just not happening. We need to face facts. We need to pay attention a little bit. Anyway, so getting back into the whole martial law Jade Helm thing. So we discussed martial law. We discussed some of these exercises going on in hour one, which are not really part of Jade Helm. That stuff to me, again, and we all agreed, is more so psychological operations.
Which used to be illegal.
Well, it should be completely illegal for them to conduct psychological operations on the civilian populace.
In 1948, it was made illegal under the Smith-Mundt Act. And then the NDAA of 2012 rolled it back. Remember that one? Oh, yeah. See, the Smith-Mundt Act basically ensured for decades that government-made media intended for foreign audiences doesn't end up on radio networks broadcasted within the U.S., and all that other stuff. Basically, of course, during that time, we had Project Mockingbird, and we still have Project Mockingbird. And, you've got every reporter basically is on the Council on Foreign Relations. So they're all bought and sold anyway. But there used to be consequences or, let's say, a road to redress for people under the Smith-Mundt Act. And that was conveniently rolled back with the NDAA of 2012. Game on.
Well, psychological operations. Okay.
I think psychological operations is a lot of what had to do with the emergency alert system thing going off too.
Oh, well, that's something I'm glad you brought that up because we talked about that off air and I completely forgotten about that, Melissa. So there you go. That's why it's so awesome. But yes, you are correct. The emergency alert system, that's psychological operations 101. How many states was it in? You said 12, right?
It was in a dozen states, and it just said emergency alert. It interrupted programming on the television. It said emergency alert. There was a red bar at the bottom that just kept scrolling the names of states. And that's all it said. It didn't say this is a test. It didn't have a FEMA logo on it or anything. but they're saying it was a FEMA thing. But it went for 10 minutes. So this is not something that it's a glitch in the system and then no one corrected it for 10 minutes. 10 minutes is a really long time when you're talking about airtime.
And how come there's no accountability for it? If it was a glitch, how come it's like on 9/11, like anybody, we screwed up. Sorry. But nobody was fired. Nobody was punished. And I know this isn't the same level, but it's the same thing. If this were really a glitch, okay, if it wasn't done on purpose, then somebody would have been held to account because the government loves nothing more than to hold people to account, okay, for whatever the frigging reason, whether it's their own or somebody else. They don't care. They eat their own. They're cannibalistic. They do not care. So when no one's held to account, like if this was a glitch, don't you think? Can you imagine? Think about this for a second. We'll use Joe as an example. Joe, you're a civil servant. Don't you think you'd get your ass ripped at work if you accidentally sent out an emergency alert to 12 states?
Are you kidding me?
Don't you think you'd get out in trouble a little bit?
Just a little bit.
There was a time when I inadvertently, I was on a tech assist out on the West Coast, and I inadvertently jammed San Diego International Airport. Their GPS. Didn't mean to. But it was one of those things. And yeah, you typically don't normally hear ding, 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 Admiral arriving or whatever. Uh-oh. Yeah. So just stupid things like that, you tend to get in big trouble. So now, if you're talking about doing that over 12 states, just oopsie daisy.
For 10 minutes. Not for 30 seconds or even 5 minutes.
Heads are rolling.
I mean, the average 30-minute program is actually, 22 minutes if you count commercials or whatever? Yeah, exactly. But they didn't say anything. They just said, it was a glitch. I'm pretty sure it was to track social media, see how many people mentioned it, see how far it got.
Bingo and bingo.
But it's all a psyop. I mean, that's exactly what it is.
That's why I say a psychological operation. They engage in the psychological operation, and then they monitor the social media activity to see what's being said about it. Because they can now get real-time feedback. And it's not real-time feedback from somebody on the ground misinterpreting stuff. No. Their real-time feedback is from the people themselves.
Taking pictures of their living rooms and putting it on Twitter.
And also showing how freaked out they are. Which also lets them know, hey, this scares the crap out of people. Psychological operation working. So they're getting feedback.
Yeah.
You see what they're doing? Again, like when I mentioned them flying the Little Bird over Miami last year or the year before when they were firing blanks. They were firing rounds, but they were blanks. Why were they doing that in the middle of the day, scaring the crap out of the general public? They're slowly turning the heat up. Frogs in the pot. You can't throw frogs into a boiling pot of water because they'll hop right the hell out. But if you slowly bring the temperature up, they'll fall asleep and they boil right in the pot, literally. And that's what they're doing to us. Go back to sleep, America. Like Bill Hicks said, there's 160 channels and nothing on. Go back to sleep. Watch American Gladiators.
I mentioned on a song I wrote, We're in a Lot of Trouble. I talked about this on the show last week. I wrote it in 2006. The album didn't get released until 2009, but in 2006, the final verse of that song is, "Now you're living now you're living as a slave, high-tech police state, warrantless searches and waterboarding awaits." And it hits on several other points like that: mandatory vaccines and microchips and everything like that. And over the course of the last 10 years, a lot of the stuff that I even thought was just, iffy because I was listening to Alex Jones, getting a lot of the information from there. I was still talking about it because I felt it coming, but I even was a bit skeptical back then. But over the last 10 years, there's no denying it now. I mean, here we are in 2015 and it's right in your face. It's scary. It really is. We've got to do something. We've got to stand up right now. But it makes me wonder if we're past the point of no return. And maybe Joe or Popeye or Melissa, you guys can comment on this. Are we beyond the point of no return? Can we even stop it right now? Or do we just brace ourselves for what's to come?
I don't know.
I'm a brace for impact guy.
I don't believe we're past the point of no return. That's my personal opinion of it.
I don't brace for impact. I'm trying to save single. At this point, I think the world is lost. I mean, it's nice thought, and we could turn it around, but it's going to take at least a generation or two to do it. And I just see too much apathy out there, to be honest with you. It could turn around, but like I said,
and just a willing acceptance. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I did a video recently because a friend of mine she's an alternative media journalist, but she doesn't have a criminal record or anything. She was driving in her car and she had expired tags because there was some kind of paperwork issue. It was all a bureaucratic paperwork issue, but that didn't stop the cop from pulling her over, getting in her face for over an hour, threatening to jail her, take away her car, screaming at her. I mean, just all manner of everything. I'm sure he had her color-coded threat score based on the stuff she writes online because she has no criminal record. Who would treat a woman that way that has no criminal record, hasn't done anything wrong? He was calling her a criminal. You broke the law because she doesn't have a tag on her car that means she paid money to the state. That's not really a crime that hurts most American people. I mean, it's not like she went out and killed a baby, and he was acting like they were similar. Those are the two of the exact same things. And I said, what would happen tomorrow if all of us together said, I don't think I will go get my tags renewed. I don't think I need to have tags. I don't think I need to apply to the government for the right to freely travel unless I'm a slave. Maybe we should just all not do that. And it's just amazing to even make that, have that as an example, and then have people, well, we can't do that. Why would you suggest why can't we do that? Why couldn't all of us together tomorrow go, I don't think I will get my tags renewed. I'm not going to get my vehicle inspected. I'm just going to drive it because I'm a free human being and I have the right to drive down the road without paying a bunch of extortion money to the government. But just having that, just saying that, it freaks people out so much to think it's like that's too far outside of the box.
Well, Melissa, that's the answer, okay? First of all, people need to realize, to answer Chris's question, my opinion of it, okay, you living outside the box, living outside of their paradigm of control is the answer, okay? When I say that, when we were talking the other night, we had JD on, we all had that amazing roundtable on Freaky Friday, okay? And I brought up the edited, the original, before it was edited, copy that became the script that was the end speech in the first Matrix. And it talked about, it was Neo saying, look, I understand that I can't fight the cage, like I can't fight the prison. I have to understand that I have to turn the prison into a cocoon and then morph out of it like a butterfly, meaning once you change the cocoon, the prison can't hold you anymore. But if you fight the construct because the cage is part of the construct, you're never going to win, right? So they want us to fight a physical fight because they're geared for that. They already know that the American attitude is to do that, and they're ready for that. FEMA camps, martial law, everything else. What they're not ready for is people to just stand up and say, no, I'm not going to take this anymore. We don't need to do this. You people don't have power over me. And, the police waking up and realizing that they're part of the general public. They're not some special class, which is what their masters have them convinced of right now. It's all a change of perspective, and they fear that. So I don't think it's game over, because if it was game over, we'd know it. Trust me, if it was game over, they wouldn't have to run around and do psychological operations. They would just be on the streets slaughtering people, because it would be just game on. It wouldn't matter. They wouldn't have to worry about doing it slowly. They have to do it slowly because they fear us. So their general actions alone show their weakness, okay? And make no mistake, evil at its very core sows the seeds of its own destruction. And people that suck that evil in and embrace it, they die. They end up destroying themselves physically. Look at people like Zbigniew Brzezinski or Henry Kissinger or any of these. Look at George H.W. Bush. The older they get, their outside can't mask their inner evil. It takes its toll. Yeah, David Rockefeller. Even if that guy's 100 years old and uses some sort of technology to defy death, he's the only thing he's not.
Everybody looks like a lizard when they're 100.
Yeah,
no, David Rockefeller has like blood brimming from his eyes. What the hell is that?
Their inner evil shines through. My point is, it takes its toll physically on them. Okay, so don't be afraid of this. It's a small, minute little group of individuals doing this that have everybody convinced. The only way that they can control us is for us to be afraid, and they have to convince us. They're bullies. They're the friggin' schoolyard bully walking around chesting up on everybody. Give me your lunch money. I'm going to kick your ass. And they push the kid down. And they go over maybe to his friend who's standing there scared, shaking. What are you going to do about it, huh? Nothing. That's right, pussy. Walk away. And they go pick on somebody else. That's what they're doing.
Perceived power.
What if everybody in the schoolyard stood up and was like, we're not going to take your crap anymore. So either you knock it off or we're going to all collectively kick your ass. How does that sound? We'll all take turns doing it. And we'll sell tickets. We'll put it on YouTube. It would stop. Okay, so, and I'm not saying we don't go fight them. In that case, that's what they want. You have to change your perspective. Like I push with my wife's legacy. Be the change. Don't just sit there and be like, oh, the police state, the Illuminati, what do we do? Oh my God, I'm going to go get guns and silver and gold and I'm going to amass all this crap.
They're going to become Ross Perot?
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do with all of that crap?
Die.
What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with all that crap, dude? It's not going to. You want to win. You want to win. If you want to change things, if you don't want it to go down to this martial law FEMA camp roundup type scenario, then we need to change our perspective. We need to shift things. Okay, I'm not talking about shifting our vibration and everything will be love, peace, and harmony on a new plane. I'm not talking new agey garbage. I'm talking real world solutions. If everybody changed their perspective, this would end tomorrow. How many times I hear people say, "Man, there's nothing I can do. What am I going to do anyway? I'm powerless, so I'm just going to go live my life." I was like, "What?"
You got to keep fighting, no doubt, man. But
no, you're not powerless. Even if you don't fight, just knowing you're. Just taking personal responsibility and not relying on other people, not relying on somebody else to save you, realizing that voting is a farce unless you're voting locally. You know what I mean? Something like that. Realizing having a better understanding of things will free you. You won't be, I need my protective parent. They lose their power. If everybody's perception changed, okay, literally in the blink of an eye, they would lose their power. It's like A Bug's Life. When they're standing there and the one grasshopper, he's standing there and they're talking about the ants and it's a upside down bottle filled with grains of rice. And he takes out a grain of rice and he throws it at one of the grasshoppers because the two of the guys were like, who cares if that one ant stood up, right? It's just one ant. So he throws the one grain of rice and he goes, oh, look, it's just one ant, right? And he throws another one and they're like, oh, ha, ha, ha. And then he uncorks it and all of the rice comes out and it buries them. And he says, if one ant stands up, then they'll all stand up. And if they all stand up, they'll realize that there's more of them than there is of us, and our way of life is over. So it's not about anything else other than control. That was a speech in a children's cartoon animated movie, whatever you want to call it. They're telling you right to your face, okay? They don't have any power. You have the true power, and they're afraid. So to answer your question, I know it's very long-winded, Chris, but I do not believe that it's game over yet. Because if it was game over, then their sick, twisted plan, the things that they would like to do, their ultimate evil end game, like the hardcore end, would already be happening. So I don't think it's game over. And I think that's why they have to pull these psychological operations to keep everybody afraid so that the train can continue down the tracks to where we get to the point, there will be a point of no return eventually. So, good question.
We've been drunk with apathy over the last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And more and more people are starting to wake up. And I think that's why we're seeing the police state coming down so heavy, because more and more people are awake. And we as patriots, as radio show hosts, when we open our mouths, we drop more bombs than Tim McVeigh. It's actually a lyric out of this song that I'm working on right now because we're dropping more bombs than Tim McVeigh. I know it's very, very controversial. But my point is, though, that our mouths are more dangerous than any kind of violent resistance that there can be. Now, it may come to a point where we have to do that. But that's why they're moving so quickly to try to silence us, because the more that we speak, the more and more people start to wake up. The more people start to wake up, they start to speak. And then pretty soon They simply can't do it because there's two ways to win this. The first way is to turn our backs on it, ignore it, and just completely let it crumble on its own, because we're the ones that fuel it. We're the ones that give power to the machine. If we just turn our back on the machine, but we have to do it in mass. We just can't do it individually. There has to be a big movement out there of people not paying their income taxes, for instance. There has to be 60, 70, 80% of it, more people than they can make examples out of, to scare the rest of the sheep into submission. Then you can demolish the IRS. Same with jury nullification. Enough people have to get on these juries and start nullifying these laws that they do not agree with, that are non-violent laws that don't violate somebody's property or violate somebody's liberty or their safety. You know, you have to have a mass movement. That's the only way. Now, if you want to do it on a small scale, you've got to do what the founding fathers did, and that is fight back. It may get to a point where we have to do that. We're not there yet. But it's a very scary situation.
You don't want to do that because that'll become a revolution, and a revolution is just a part of a cycle. It's like I use an engine as an example, the crankshaft. One full cycle is 4 revolutions, right? So that's what they want. They want a revolution because it's part of a cycle. They control the cycle. The whole way to solve it is to step out of it, change your perspective. Done. And I know it's easier said than done, but actually it's really not. You know, when people just change their mind and they decide to live, in that paradigm, like, be the change, right? You know what? I'm going to go out and be a better person. I'm going to go and change the world. I'm physically going to go out and not only physically do it, but mentally live my life that way. Then you're literally making these people irrelevant, and that's how you win. By making the powers that shouldn't be irrelevant. That's why they're scared, and that's why they steer everything via fear and everything else into this, revolution type thing. They want some redneck out in the middle of, Alabama somewhere to lose it and just start taking out and I'm not talking some contrived crap. I mean some real, rebel flags flying. Woo! They're all hanging at the back of a pickup truck. Somewhere they got fully automatic weapons and just letting loose. Okay, that's what they want. That's why they keep poking the public. They keep poking the bear. They're hoping and praying for that because they have the ability to handle that. What they don't have the ability is for people to be like, you know what? We don't need you. You're irrelevant. You're irrelevant. I don't need you anymore. You're outdated. You're done. No one needs to use you anymore. You are something that needs to be put on the shelf. Then their power goes away. Because it's only like Joe said. That's a great term, by the way, Joe. Perceived power. Because that's what it is. It's everybody's perception. Oh my God, they're so powerful. But who are they? Who? Well, they're the state. But if they're humans. They're us. If they understood that and they didn't think of themselves as a special class and they had a perspective shift, things would be different. We would treat each other differently. They wouldn't have any power. And that's, well, Chris, you said it well. We give them their power. That's how this whole sick system is set up right now. So we have to make the decision to step out of that paradigm. That's the only way to win this. I mean, that's my analysis of it. I could be wrong.
Why else would they constantly have to get new technology, constantly trying to do all this transhumanist agenda stuff, constantly making the new robo warrior and all these things where they want to have basically autopilot soldiers that don't have any empathy and make no decisions on their own, that weren't put there by chips in their brains from computers. They don't want the human element, but they also know that without that stuff, they are just us. It's just people. Why are we bowing down to it? I think what's happening right now isn't just that more people are waking up. I think that more people are waking up because the box they've put everyone in is so tiny. And people are sick of it. They know there's got to be more to being here, more meaning to their lives than just, I get up every day, I sit in a cubicle, it's worthless, I do a bunch of stuff that matters, not at all. Then I go home to my house that's full of crap made in China. I take out a whole bunch of loans so I can slave my entire life away to own the crap that was made in China. So that maybe someday when I'm old and can barely enjoy it, I'll have a few moments to myself. Nobody thinks that's why we're here. And they also don't...
Hold on, no, I have to interrupt your rant because the break's going to cut you.
Oh, the break.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Final segment. Wow. Freaking show went by in a blink of an eye. I blinked and it's over. Chris, before we get into the final thoughts here in the final segment, I know you were mentioning you were working on a new piece of music.
Yeah, I've been working on a new album. I've got to release one. It's been 5 years, but it's right in line with what we're talking about. So I can play a little bit of it. I've got the first 2 verses finished. I've got the whole beat finished. Everything's finished except for the 3rd verse. So
Chris Geo exclusive here on DTRH.
yeah, I can give you a little sample.
Go ahead.
We were told long ago that we would see America come and go. I often wondered what generation that would be. What would be the signs that we would see America in its failing times? I think we're in that. And I think that this kind of exploitation is more recognizable and identifiable, and the cultures are getting stronger. We're going to realize it's about your own survival and not about America so much.
Ashes to ashes and dust to dust, and gold, oil, and drugs we trust. Can't hold back cause it's never enough. Split 2, Jackson hope the dealer busts. The cold hard facts hidden in the shade. Chopping snowflakes with the razor blade. Can't change the times, can't change the game. So we raise the stakes cause we can still get paid. But it's still the same day after day. Another line of credit the American way. A little bit of freedom just slipped away. But the only one to listen was the NSA. Until the warriors come out to play. Rise from the ashes in a state of decay. Label us a threat for the things we say, cause we're dropping more bombs than Tim McVeigh.
But the more pollution there is, the more cancer there is. So you begin to see a nation dying from within. In the name of Chucky our law, Mitakuyasin, it's the same. We will have our day too.
Running out of hope as they tighten the noose. Homegrown tyranny, always mass-produced. Catch a taste of sting like a brown recluse. And when they waterboard, I hope you're waterproof. Now you're walking proof of the cold hard truth. The police leave your face red, white, and blue. Laying on the streets yelling, I can't breathe. In the land of the free, land of the sheep. Home of the slaves cause you gave it up. Illegal income tax but you pay it up. Illegal immigrants so you can point the blame. While Wall Street executives buy ropes and chains. But it's still the same day after day. Another prison filled the American way. Another day, another dollar, no time to waste. Don't hesitate for a second in this human race.
We are all in the struggle in this world. And I think we are committed to our own personal struggles. No matter what the time takes. No matter how long it takes. Our ancestors told us and gave us direction.
That's the energy I've been working with lately.
That's pretty badass, Chris.
Thank you. The vocals need to be ironed out a little bit. It was just a fresh take right after writing the vocals. So on the CD, it sounds like a lot more, polished.
Could you perhaps maybe work with me on a song about gardening?
About gardening?
No, it went over your head.
Think
about it. Oh, yeah. Now you caught it.
Oh,
Nice.
Well, he totally missed it, but he caught it on the rebound. He's, I got it. Ha ha ha.
yeah, it took a little bit.
Yes, it's okay. Anyway. Oh man,
I still don't get it. I think I get it.
Think about.
I think it has to do with Bob Teskin.
Bingo.
Okay.
Ah.
All right.
That was the funniest thing I ever heard.
Now you get it.
Yes. Chris's unreleased tracks, ladies and gentlemen. The things that we hear and know off air. Anyway, so
I have
Chris,
a lot of them. Kev uses one of my songs that is unfinished. I stand tall in the face of tyranny.
I wondered
want
who
it
that
all.
was.
Yeah, that's me. From my cold dead hands, you can come and take it. Step on my land, we'll see how far you make it. I hope you understand the dialectic. Disassemble their plans and then connect it. So now it's problem, reaction, I don't remember the lyrics to it. It's been a while, yeah. But it's got like some gunfires. It's got some gunshots. And Bob was like, "Oh my God, you can't put that in there." And I said, "Fuck you." Excuse me. I said, I always feel like we're on hanger here with this energy here. So
talking about gunshots, and next thing you know, you're dropping the F-bomb. I got you.
See, Chris gets all gangster in like 3.5 seconds, you see? He's like, "Man, you can't censor me. I'm Chris Geo, yo."
Cherie's out of town, and so I went to the dispensary.
Nice.
So jealous that you like
some e-liquid right now.
Oh my!
I could go to the dispensary. I'm kind of jealous. Thanks a lot, federal government. Thanks a lot, police state. By the way, what's up with all these states suing Colorado? Well, we can't enforce. Sheriffs, I feel conflicted. I mean, my deputies are upset because they're not allowed to enforce federal law. Aren't you supposed to be enforcing the state constitution and the state laws? Well, I took an oath to uphold the federal law. Really? What? Does it actually say in your oath that you're going to uphold the federal law? Because if it does, you're a douche. Because last time I checked, that's not what the sheriff's job was. Just saying. This is ridiculous to the point of, like, you can't argue Colorado, Washington State. I don't know, because I know the laws are different, Chris, and I guess you could actually talk and speak to this, but I know Colorado, the crime rate dropped. They're making a ton of money in tax revenue. I mean, you can't argue that the lies and the propaganda that were used for years to say no have been proven wrong just by Colorado going through the process and you seeing it happen. I mean, that's why all these other states are like, holy crap, look at how much money they're making. We're going to legalize it for recreational use too. Woohoo! Why do you think everybody else...
I think all the medical patients need to get together and sue all of those anti-drug organizations that were putting out those commercials of marijuana will kill you, et cetera, for false advertisement.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, hold these people accountable for everything that they've been spewing. Yeah. This is the way I think government should be set up, in a point to where if you pass a bill or if you vote yes on a bill and it passes and it violates constitutional rights, and then a judge comes back later and says, "Oh, this is unconstitutional," then those politicians should be held accountable to the victims of whatever law it is. For instance, this whole stop and frisk situation in New York, totally unconstitutional. I don't know how they're getting away with it. Maybe they're still getting away with it. I haven't checked, but I know that last year was a big controversy, and I'm sitting there scratching my head and going, "This is a Fourth Amendment violation. How is it that they're getting away with this? Why hasn't anybody challenged it?" In Texas, there was a case called Brown versus Texas, and Brown was stopped, and the police officers demanded his identification. That violated his Fourth Amendment right, and the reason that they stopped him was for the sole purpose of identification, and that's it. He took it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled, and it became a pivotal and I forget the word that I'm looking for, but it became one of those cases that is the foundation of standing up for this Fourth Amendment, Brown versus Texas. So we have that ruling there. Why doesn't anybody raise this controversy in New York and say this is unconstitutional? How do they get away with doing this over and over and over again? And I got off point there for a minute. Oh yeah, the point is that we need to start holding these politicians accountable. So in a situation like this, somebody raises the controversy, takes it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says, yes, this is unconstitutional, violates the Fourth Amendment. And then the mayor who implemented that policy is held criminally liable for passing unconstitutional policies. That will deter a lot of politicians from doing anything unconstitutional. Right now, they're challenging the marijuana issue, for instance, in the Supreme Court, and the judge may very well rule that prohibition of marijuana is completely unconstitutional. And because of that, I mean, hell, the Constitution was written on hemp paper. How can you say that the paper that the Constitution was written on is constitutional to ban?
Well, here's the flip side to that, It's funny because you look at the Supreme Court building, it says equal justice under the law, but we know that that's just not the case. And our court systems are broken. And to rely on one case or even like a dozen or so it ain't going to cut it. The only way to do this, in my opinion, is you have to flood these municipalities. You have to flood these federal courts with lawsuits. I mean, flood them to the point where you're overwhelming these municipalities and these state budgets because they just have to fend off all of these cases. I'm going to give you an example. In Washington, D.C., the ban to open carry was just dropped because they got so many damn lawsuits on it. Because in D.C., you could only have a firearm in your house. You couldn't carry it outside your house. And the concealed carry permit, to get one is so arduous that it's impractical. I mean, they're even challenging that right now, too. But they got flooded with so many lawsuits that the Attorney General for Washington, D.C. had to drop their defense of it because they couldn't afford to defend it. So they had to pick and choose their battles. That's how you do it. You litigate them into bankruptcy. And I'm just not
death by
seeing
1,000 cuts. Well, death by
that's
1,000 cuts. That's how you do it. You can't, because people go, well, I can't afford to do that. Okay, so you get small groups of people, 5 or 10 people together. You all chip in, get a lawyer, one lawsuit. Another 5 or 10 people chip in, get a lawyer, lawsuit. Another 5 or 10 people chip in, you do that enough times, and
it doesn't even matter if you win, Popeye.
No,
all you got to do is make them defend it and make them have to pay that attorney.
The object isn't even to win.
Right.
The object is to bog the system down to the point where they're like, this is absolutely ridiculous, because their own system, you play by their rules. Okay. Once you understand how to play the game, you can bog their system down and weigh it down real quick because it's antiquated and crap. So it's not hard.
Right. Like for the police state, let me give you an example of that. There is a charge you can bring up, a federal charge called malfeasance of duty. And basically what it is you sue them for violating their oath. That they have to sign, by the way, that they swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, But you can actually sue them in federal court. It only costs you about $200 to file a suit in federal court, even if you just want to do it yourself. And they have to defend it. Now, 99.999% of the time, you're going to lose. But who cares? Because you're just going to kill them. If everybody would just do a malfeasance of duty lawsuit in federal court every time a police officer violates your rights, man, these municipalities wouldn't be able to handle it. They'd have to start making changes. Otherwise, you're going to bankrupt them all.
Well, that's one way. That's one way to handle some of the stuff. Now, the only problem when it comes to like police brutality and things like that, that's one way to solve it. But then the other side is then you get the police unions and stuff that come in, and then they close ranks and everything. So that has to be addressed in a logical fashion as well. I mean, and that's like an entire broadcast in and of itself, just diving into that whole thing. But that's actually a good way to just overload the system, like your advertisement for your show says. Give them paperwork until they choke, right?
That's right.
Okay, well, that's exactly what you want, in my worst Tony Soprano impression ever. But yes, that's, whenever you hear that in that advertisement for Joe's show, think about that. Like, just overload the system. Remember when it finally came out that the NSA was monitoring everything and everybody was freaking out? I was like, we should just have a day in this country where all day long people just take like dick pics, Photoshop, whatever, anything, and pictures of grass, the sky, a chair, the most mundane, the toilet after you've gone to the bathroom. Just everybody just overload the NSA system, and at the same time, not only can you do that, you could also give them a 1-2 punch. You could punch DHS in the nuts, right? That see something, say something, email and all that. You just start sending them random pics. I saw this. I just wanted to say, wow, isn't that gross? Right? Just something stupid. Just inundate the system with so much crap. If people did that for one day, they would have to look at that and they'd realize that, okay, they're on another level because they react to stuff like that. They monitor things like that. That's why they actually change their behavior in accordance with how we react to things. So,
well, see, the solutions, they're so close, but they're so far away because on one hand, you're right. This is how fragile the system is, that if we all just did something like this, we would only have to stop going to work for a day or two before the whole machine just crumbles and things start to change. The thing is, we have to do it in mass, and organizing everybody to do that. Most people just aren't willing to do that because it's inconvenient for them, or they've got better things to do, or, oh, I'm just one person. What difference can I make? And therefore, that mentality starts to spread, and we start to feel isolated and feel like, okay, we're the only ones awake. The whole world is just dumb sheep. And then the mainstream media continues that image of the people out there that they're dumb down sheep. Their ratings show different, though. The ratings show that the sheep are waking up and not becoming sheep anymore. But see, we need people to start working in mass, and I don't see it happening for one reason or another. It's not that people don't know in this day and age. In 2015, 9 out of 10 people know. Now it's a matter of getting the 7 out of 10 who are not acting to act.
Exactly, and it's a perspective shift. If people shift their perspective, then this will change overnight, Chris. You know what I mean? And then all this stuff, this whole police state, all of this stuff will become irrelevant. You know, the ticket writing, everything, it'll all become irrelevant because the people that are the ones that are responsible for creating that and pushing that, because they need that, will become irrelevant. A lot of the way we do things will become irrelevant because we just won't look at doing things the same way anymore. Imagine if instead of everybody having as a motive a profit margin, what if everybody had as a motive the betterment of the species as a whole? And I mean not just physically, but like allowing us to, like, you know, explore the oceans, get into outer space, things like that, right? What if everybody actually shifted their perspective? And I'm not talking about some perfect brain dead utopia, but I mean, instead of us doing things like, well, I do this, I make whatever and produce this because I can make X amount of dollars and I'm eventually going to have all this money in the bank. What if we just did it because it was the right thing to do? And if everybody had that attitude, it would change. Things would drastically change. When people say, well, no, it would take time. Well, no, I mean, that's why the shift isn't going to take it. It's speeding up exponentially. That's why they want to clamp the internet down, because they're freaking out. When I started doing this back in 2006, there wasn't anybody awake like this. I mean, you talked about any of this stuff, you were looked at like you had 6 heads, and they would want to lock you up. Now, I hear random conversations in the store about all of this. So people are waking up. You guys know this. I mean, it's speeding up. It can't be stopped. Their only outcome they can control is New World Order, police state, FEMA camps, all that crap. Violence. That's all. Violence. At one word sums it up. They can only control violence. They can't control anything else other than that. So they have to scare the crap out of you and get you on a very base animal level to be afraid. And what happens when an animal's afraid, ladies and gentlemen? They lash out, and that's
they attack. If they're backed in a corner and they got nowhere else to go, they're gonna attack.
Right. Well, that's what they're doing to the general public.
Hey, by the way, I just wanted
operations. Anyway,
I wanted to throw this out because this just came out, and I don't know if it's fear mongering or not. You know, all these countries are printing money, and we've heard about how fragile the Eurozone is, and how if the euro collapses, have worldwide effects. Well, Greece is right now drawing up plans, and it looks like they're going to be instituting the drachma again. And they anticipate missing their debt payment for the first time, and then they're going to start paying bills with their parallel currency, which, if you think about it, could spook the markets. But the markets are rigged, so it's kind of like, I don't know. But here is just another thing to get thrown in there out of the 100 or so different things that are going on simultaneously. I mean, the world is a wreck, dude. It's an absolute train wreck right now.
Out of chaos, order.
Remember, and look what's about to happen this weekend.
Oh yeah,
another
blood moon
tomorrow night on Freaky Friday, no doubt, with Rebecca Roth. So you make sure, folks, you stay tuned, or you tune in tomorrow night, because that's going to be a dynamite show.
She's cool.
I just came across her information this week. It's coincidental that you're having her on.
Yeah, it's cool. She's a big fan of TFR, man.
Yeah,
is she?
She's coming.
Yeah, she loves it.
She's coming on my show at the beginning of May. I just can't have her on I can't have anybody on, because for the next, after next week, I'm going to be on the road for a special reason.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. Classified.
It's classified information. We could tell everybody, but then we'd have to kill the entire listening audience. No, we're only kidding. Melissa's getting married, and I'm going to be in the wedding, and I'm going on a road trip to do that. And then after that, I'm going to go up to the Grand Canyon with some of Marseille's ashes and spread her out in the Grand Canyon because she always wanted to go see it. So I figured instead of letting her see it, she's going to become part of it. I might even look up William Whitecrow while I'm out there. Go hang out with him. I have to see. I have to message him. And then, I don't know. And then I'm going to go around and just road trip for like a week on my way back.
You need to come up here, man.
I'll fly. I'm not driving over to Washington State. It's too damn far. I'm already going to be going like 1,500 miles, west, and then probably about another 1,000 miles, 1,500 miles north, and then coming. So by the time I'm done, I'm going to rack like if I come out west, I've already thought about this. If I go any further, I'm just going to leave my car at a safe location that I already know exists. I'm just going to fly out and visit people and then fly back because I'm just, screw driving. It'll take me another 3 or 4 days just to go one way. But yeah, so I'm psyched. She's an interesting lady to say the least, and she points out a lot of interesting things about 9/11. That's why when you and Kev did that 3-hour show the other day, and you guys had her on, and you were talking to her, I was feeding you questions like, throw this out there, throw that out there, because she's on point and she's got an interesting background. She was a volunteer firefighter, and so was I as well. So it'll be fun to pick her brain. She's a smart woman.
Wait, is she the one that wrote the book? It's a fictional book about
Methodical Illusion.
Yes, okay, yeah. It's the same one I'm thinking of then. Yeah.
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 So she'll be joining us because she also likes to talk about, reptilians and blood moons and all sorts of other good stuff.
Perfect Freaky Friday fodder.
Oh, she is. She's like awesome for Freaky Friday.
What is your take? What is your take on the blood moons? I haven't really seen any significance. They say that there's all this astrological significance to it, but
here's the thing.
I haven't seen any events around the blood moons.
Well, they never. I don't think they've ever happened exactly on the blood moons. It's just signs. But here's the interesting thing about this particular tetrad is, when they, and I think it was like 2000 or 2001, they put mirrors on the moon and they bounced a laser off them, and they figured out the lunar cycle down to 1/10,000% accuracy, and they can go all the way back and just keep figuring it out, and they can go all the way forward and figure it out. What they figured out is this tetrad has never happened before, nor can they predict that it will ever happen again. It's unique. So, you take it for what you will. I mean, I don't know. All I know is that, when you look in the Bible, it says that God gave us the sun and the moon for signs, first and foremost. If it's a sign, yeah. I mean, the world's crazy, dude. Blood moons or not, it's loony.
What if it's just an astrological event, and it's the people that are putting they create the ceremony, the belief, the ritual, the mythos behind this, and then they put the energy into it. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I think that's more likely.
We'll go into it more in depth tomorrow. We kind of don't have time to get into it, but you're right. I mean,
what do you mean 2 minutes isn't enough to get into the blood moon, Joe?
Well, no, but I mean, how often?
These are people that like to do these kinds of things around special events like this. So, and if this is never going to happen again, I could see them jumping on it.
They're taking full advantage of it, because they draw energy off of this stuff. Like, there's no tomorrow. You know that, dude. They're like bloodsuckers. So.
That is very true. We are at a very unique time right now in between the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse that is coming up in 2 days, I think. I think it was April 4th.
Yeah.
With the lunar eclipse.
Can you see
so right now there's a very powerful window to activate certain situations.
Even if it's like a mass ritual killing or something, you know what I mean?
No, they'll turn CERN on, open up a gateway to some other dimension, and just bring freedom through. I need my interdimensional traveling raptor. Bring him back. So bring him on through. I'm telling you.
I hate when they do that.
I miss my raptor.
I wish I had a dragon that I could just fly to Washington for and go to a dispensary with Chris.
I like when the show starts about something and then
just-
ends with that thought. That's my favorite.
It's like Seinfeld, the show about nothing, right?
Yeah,
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail. I was actually going to make this apology off air, but I might as well make it on air. I'm sorry for derailing today for anything I do.
Oh no, dude, come on. It's
was
it's
just
for
kidding.
free show.
It adds flavor to it. That's why it's a roundtable. Look, it's my 4-year anniversary broadcast, so it's fine. It's
Oh, congratulations!
yes, yeah,
Jade Helm and Flying Raptors.
yes,
Marijuana.
yeah,
Get some.
because cannabis.
In time,
See, the New World Order agenda pushing scumbags will be like, you see, this is why you can't have cannabis, because you want to open up a gateway and bring through raptors that are named Freedom and eat evil. Yes, that's right. I miss Freedom. She's such a good girl. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time. I love you all. I'll see you all again tomorrow on Freaky Friday along with Joe. Maybe Chris will pop in, maybe Melissa. I know Kev will be there, Marty. I know everybody here loves you. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. Mel, thank you so much for coming on. And ladies and gentlemen, as I always tell you, the solutions to our problems are an inside job. Go out and be the superheroes I know you all are. I believe in you. Marseille believed in you. Everybody else here believes in you. Go do it. Be the change.